The UK is being swept by a green revolution where thousands of patients are waiting for cannabis to be legalised. The drug, which was once used and prescribed as an effective medicine, is now illegal. This has made it difficult for many patients to access cannabis and use it to treat their symptoms.
They can buy street cannabis if they're really desperate, or they can get contact with a local cannabis grower who might be growing organic. So people who are ill, they've learnt that they need good medicine, they need it to be clean. But as you know, people are desperate. They'll accept anything, they'll buy off the street. You know, I know how bad it gets. I understand why people go out and they buy street cannabis, because they are in pain, you know. Well, how do first-time buyers know what they're getting here? Because that's the problem with prohibition. You can't go out and get something that makes you a good conversationist at parties, or something that's going to make you really good at playing computer games, or something that's going to make you veg out and watch a movie. Really stoned, you know. So you have to know what you're doing with cannabis.
While Sarah advises approaching street dealers, Jake has to do so without any choice. He suffers from diaphragmatic hernia since birth and now uses cannabis for chronic and neuropathic pain.
I have to rely on street dealers, so I can't rely on the potency and the quality. I can't tell if it's contaminated a lot of the time. I've spent a lot of time trying to get sources to get the best quality cannabis for myself. And I do come across okay strains occasionally, but I do always end up having to resort back to poor quality cannabis, and it means I have to consume more of it, and I can't, like I say, I can't tell if it's contaminated. So it's quite dangerous. I am lucky though, like I say, I can get access to good quality strains, but it's hard. It's very hard. It's very expensive.
Jake did manage to get access to Sativex, the only legal form of cannabis manufactured by GW Pharmaceuticals and available from the NHS, but its THC-CBD potency remains ineffective in his case.
I tried very hard years ago. I asked my then GP if I could see a consultant who I went to meet in Manchester, and they quickly said no. I've met another consultant since in Manchester again, but this was last year and it's followed into this year, and I was able to get Sativex eventually. I trialed it this year. They gave me 3 bottles and it's not strong enough. There's the balance of CBD to THC doesn't work for pain relief, and Sativex is a 1:1 ratio THC CBD, you know, almost equal amounts of both. CBD counteracts the pain relieving properties of THC, and that's where my problem stands. So I tried it, consumed quite a lot in 8 days. The 3 bottles they gave me didn't do anything apart from help a bit of my bowel dysfunction.
Sativex is mostly prescribed for patients suffering from multiple sclerosis. It costs about £125 a bottle, which raises the question of affordability. Aldo Musi of the Green Party points out that if regulation of cannabis or medicines derived from the plant were to be implemented, pricing of those drugs would be a crucial factor.
In terms of regulating and using either cannabis or, well, more likely, let's take to begin with cannabis extracts, substances, medicines developed from cannabis components. There are some on the market, some being manufactured already. Last year, NICE, the National Institute for Care and Health Excellence, they are the body that looks at the effectiveness of treatments and whether to recommend them. And they said that while there is some evidence that medicines such as Sativex can have an effect, they're currently very expensive. And so in terms of being cost effective as a public, for example, an NHS treatment, they weren't recommending it because of the cost. So one thing would be to continue looking at the medical evidence for drugs from cannabis or from cannabis use itself in terms of efficacy. But also we might need to challenge the pricing of the drugs industry and whether that is reasonable and acceptable also.
Sativex is a tincture derived from the cannabis plant extract. While the plant itself can't be patented, pharmaceutical companies are finding ways to patent the cannabinoids found in this plant. GPs require a license to prescribe Sativex, and getting access seems to be working on a postcode lottery basis. Questions are being raised on the government's double standards, since cannabis is a Schedule 1 drug, recognized to have no medicinal value, and yet it is being backed by the government through the NHS.